Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Lynda Mullaly Hunt. Lynda is the author of the New York Times best-selling Fish in a Tree, the Bank Street Best Book, won for the Murphys, and the indie bestseller Shouting at the Rain. She's here today to talk about her new picture book release, Wish in a Tree. It celebrates neurodiversity and out-of-the-box thinking. This companion novel to her beloved novel Earlier brings her inspirational message to a whole new generation of readers, and I can't wait to discuss it with her. So let's get right to today's episode. Lynda, welcome to KidLit Love. I am so excited you're here today.
Stephanie, thank you for having me. I know already we're going to have lots of fun today, so thank you very much.
You are, or we are going to have fun. And I've got to say, I don't have enough fingers and enough toes to count how many times I have pressed your books into
Oh,
the hands of readers, both young and adult. I can't count how many semesters I have taught your books inside of my children's literature courses with pre-service teachers. So when I got the email that said, "Do you want to talk to Lynda?" I was like a little kid on this side of the computer screen saying, "Yes, yes,
right.
thank you." So I'm just beyond excited you are here today.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you. And I love talking to pre-service teachers. So if
Yeah.
you ever want to Zoom with your students, just shoot me a message.
I'm writing that literally on a sticky note. Not that I will need that, but absolutely. Thank you for that. And it's recorded, so everybody heard it.
Yes, everybody did, but I mean it. I'm sincere. So
Thank you so much. All right, well, let's start with handing the mic over to you. I would love for you to give listeners a little bit of the backstory into your work, into your books, and kind of the journey you've taken to your picture book here today.
well, my backstory of becoming an author was a long one, like so many other people. But I discovered writing really by accident, whereas a lot of my friends wanted to write books since they could hold a crayon. I was actually home with two young kids, and to pay for daycare would have literally eaten so much of my salary as a teacher at that time that it just didn't make sense. So I was home full time. Sesame Street was starting to feel interesting to me. I thought I better find something to do. And like the next day, I was walking into a Barnes and Noble and I saw a poster for a writers group. And I literally stopped in front of it and said out loud, "Huh, a night out and a cappuccino. I think I'll go." So I love the bookstore. Love wandering around the bookstore. I was there all the time with my kids. So I thought, I'll go wander around, look at the books for grown-ups. So I was there anyway. I wandered over to the writers group and sat down, and I am telling you, the first night I was hooked. Like, I just thought it was incredible to sit around with these people and discuss character and like read excerpts and weigh in, and I just loved it. And I very soon realized that I had found my people in the writing community. Now, keep in mind, I never thought that I would be published. I never thought that I would, but I felt blessed because I'd found my people. I'd gone to conferences. Again, like some of my dearest friends. Um, I guess the reason why I thought I would never get published is when I talked to my friends about their processes of writing books, mine was so different. And I hadn't met anyone else like me. And so I drew that conclusion, and that would be Kid Linda, right? Drew that conclusion that because I was different, somehow that was wrong, right? My friends could write beautiful outlines. Their brains could follow those outlines. They knew everything that was going to happen in their books before they sat down. Well, I can write a beautiful outline, but my brain will not follow one.
Yeah.
So it took me a few years to finally just hand the reins over to my brain that just wanted to write things in a different way than my friends. And when I finally did that, my writing really did change. And a door sort of opened up inside of me that just let things loose that hadn't flowed before. And so this is the message that I bring to kids, and this is the heart of Fish in a Tree. You know, I very vividly remember sitting at my sixth grade desk, fourth, fifth grade, listening to those pencils scratch across the paper and looking around and thinking, wow, I must be really dumb. Like, I can't do that. How come I can't do that? Fish in a Tree is a late love letter and thank you note to my sixth grade teacher. Like, do not doubt it when I tell you that man saved me. He saved me, which is why I tell you I would love to talk to your pre-service teachers. He did all kinds of things to change my perception of myself. I came into sixth grade as a real quiet kid staring at her shoes. I left sixth grade with my back straight and my chin up, and I swore I'd become a teacher one day and help kids like he did for me. And I did. I taught third grade and sixth grade for 10 years before becoming a writer. That's when I wandered into Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
So there I am telling a story out of order, which is how I write my books. I tell them completely out of order. Even my editor, the first time I met her, was sort of, really? That's how you write a novel? And I was like, well, it seems to work, I guess.
Works.
So this is, one of the messages that I bring to kids. I think that society as a whole looks at reading very specifically to measure intelligence, right? That if a kid reads early, right? I mean, parents will sometimes brag that their kids, read at 2 years old, whereas they don't brag about other things necessarily. I'll tell kids, there are people my age who can't read, but they can take a piece of raw wood and create a piece of furniture. That is intelligence. Maybe somebody has difficulty in school, but you know what? They could sit across from a friend in the cafeteria and realize that friend is upset about something. That's social intelligence. That's an integral part of happy life, is being able to read and respond to other human beings, right? So kids really need to understand that intelligence is measured in a lot of different ways. The former teacher in me wanted to write that book. That's what Fish in a Tree is. So Wish in a Tree is a picture book. And Wish in a Tree stars some of the characters from the novel Fish in a Tree. The main character is Oliver, who, for those of you who've read Fish in a Tree, might remember that Oliver is the kid that necessarily can't sit still. He calls out, when he doesn't have his hand raised, but he's a very loyal, very wise. He's intelligent. He's an out of the box thinker, right? And as a former teacher, I had a lot of kids like that. I knew they'd grow up to change the world. But there's one thing that keeps a lot of kids like that from chasing their dreams. I was one of those kids, and that is shame. The reason I sat down to write Wish in a Tree, the picture book, is because it's a quicker read and it's an anti-shame text. Now, I never use the word shame in the book, and I never use the terms ADD or ADHD, and that's intentional. But kids, because they're little humans, and all humans tend to do that comparison game, right? They're very hard on themselves, right? And when they do that comparison game, like I did as a kid, shame has a really horrendous effect on children. It changes their self-talk to negative. Why can't I be like those kids? What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And when a child speaks to themselves in a negative way like that, they're planting seeds. And every time they practice that over and over again, they water those seeds and those seeds become, they start to grow.
Yeah.
Kids who feel shame as children tend to have more anxiety. They tend to have more depression. They tend to exhibit behaviors that begin to isolate them from their peers, such as aggression, such as being overly competitive, such as blurting out things that maybe are not always appropriate, right? And a lot of that blurting and stuff is wrapped up in anxiety, right? It's like all in one big ball of wax. And so I think it's really important that the adults in their lives start pointing out to them, yes, you struggle with A and B, but you're good at C, D, and E and F, and you're a really great human, and you're a good kid, and you try hard, and that really matters. That really matters because unchecked, all of those things in a teenager lead to much higher instances of teenagers hurting themselves,
Mhm.
using, drugs, drinking early, all that kind of stuff. And we just need to communicate with kids. We
Mhm.
just need to see them, make eye contact with them while you talk to them. So I know that was a very long introduction. Has it been an hour?
It was the perfect introduction though, because, I, like you and like many of us, truly believe and understand and live and breathe that literacy is literally a life changing thing, right? Being able to read books, being able to write books. But as you mentioned, literacies are also a thing. And it's like a kid's ability to make something out of something, to do the things that make them feel good, that make them feel that they are creative. And having a book that, as you said, sees them and allows kids to be seen, no matter if it's the conventional way that society would like things to go or the more unique or authentic way to them. The fact that a book could give them that message early, that could change things. That your one book could be that one book that ends up changing things and has that trajectory, as you mentioned, that trajectory of shame starting young just has a domino effect that can follow a child. And this book could be the one thing that keeps the domino in place. I mean, what a power, what a gift to readers to experience that younger than they might if they were reading Fish in a Tree.
Well, thank you. That's the author dream for me.
Yeah.
What author doesn't love awards and state lists and all that? But the dream for me is to change a child's perspective of themselves. To me, that's the best thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did include in this book that kind of goes hand in hand with a lack of shame is Albert. Now, Albert in Fish in a Tree, and I guess I'm realizing that I never did tell everybody what Fish in a Tree is about. The novel Fish in a Tree is about a girl, Allie Nickerson, who's a sixth grader who misbehaves in school to hide the fact she cannot read and write until she finally meets the teacher who figures out what she's been doing. She meets a couple of other kids in the class that are also considered quote unquote outcasts. And Albert is one of those kids. I love Albert.
Mhm.
And so Albert stars in Wish in a Tree with his own unique way to point out to Oliver that maybe the way he's thinking of himself could be incorrect.
Mhm.
I, um, I do feel as a former teacher that Wish in a Tree can be a springboard to talk to kids about how to be a good friend,
Mhm.
which we talk about a lot with kids. Okay, we talk a lot to kids about how to be a good friend, but I don't see as often how to know if your peers are friends to you.
Yes.
And I think sometimes really young kids think, and would expect them to think that if you're sitting at a table with kids, they're automatically your friends.
Yeah.
And as they get older, it's important to point out to them, well, you might be sharing a sandwich with somebody at a table, but how do they make you feel?
Mhm.
How does the way they treat you make you feel? If a friend gives you a little tummy ache and after they leave, you're thinking, oh, I wonder, like true friends don't leave you wondering. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really think that's an important thing for kids to be talking about and practicing and role playing. I mean, I used to role play with my kids when I was a teacher eons ago, about interacting and if
Mhm.
somebody says something mean to you, how do you react to that? That it isn't just what you say, it's your body language, it's your internal dialogue.
Yeah.
You have to have the confidence in yourself to have the Teflon to just let that bounce off, to let it truly bounce off.
Yeah.
And to look for the people who honor you for who you really are.
Mhm. And put your focus and your energy and all of your investment in those people. Yeah.
Right. And to be a good friend yourself.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I do think that you get what you put into the world, but,
Mhm.
we could put that into kid language well, there are a lot of kids that would know what that means, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how was the process of writing a picture book different than writing for middle grade readers?
Oh, well, let's see. In 2 words, it was horribly difficult. um, again, I go back to you have to have faith in your own process and everything. So I have a lot of friends that write picture books and I love them and I respect them. I respect their work. And so I would show them a draft and they would give me their feedback and they'd say, well, it doesn't really feel like a picture book. Picture book is supposed to be really short and jumpy and
Mhm.
that wasn't working for me because it took me a while to realize that what I wanted Wish in a Tree to be is a freestanding picture book for young kids. But it also is like a deleted that could be used in upper elementary, even middle school. It's more like a deleted scene. And in fact, I'm releasing today a teacher's guide
Oh,
geared toward upper elementary and middle school teachers because if you are teaching metaphors, now metaphors, according to Common Core, are taught in like third, fourth, fifth grade. There are a lot of metaphors in this book, and the big overarching metaphor is ADD being fire. So the book starts out with Oliver, the main character, saying, "School makes me feel like a fish in a tree." Page turn, like a dragon in a paper house. And so there are edges singed and the dragon looks depressed and there's little fires and like it's out of control, right? um but as the book progresses and then on the last page you see that fire out of control is very different than harnessed fire, right? Humans have harnessed fire, we cook with it and we heat our homes and we run our cars, we do all kinds of great things with harnessed fire, but I, having struggled with focusing my entire life, I think fire is a very apropos metaphor.
mhm. Mhm, and I don't wanna ruin the experience for someone who hasn't read the book yet, but there is a full circle, so to speak, kind of way, that last line, the last question, maybe, I believe it's a question. I won't say it, but yeah, it leaves the
Well,
reader
thank you.
thinking.
Well, thank you very much.
Now you mentioned the pages a bit and the conception of that fire in the beginning and the singed pages. I would love to hear what you think of those illustrations because
Oh,
I think they're gorgeous. I think they're perfect. And I love how at least someone who has read Fish in a Tree, like I know that's you. I know with the colors, I know with the fonts, like yes, here it is. I would love to hear what you think of that representation on the page.
Well, it was interesting because I expected, because the characters in this book are older, they act more like fourth graders. Um, so I really expected the art to be very realistic. And so when I first laid eyes on the book, I was shocked, but was in love,
Yeah.
like immediately. And I think it's funny that I really don't tear up for my own work, but by the time I got to like the third spread in the book, I did. I was tearing up because it's a cartoony style, but it has so much depth.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
she captured ADHD like perfectly because it's this beautiful collage of like lined notebook paper and
Yeah.
doodles, dragons, and it's it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Way, way, way better than what I imagined it would be, which is
I'm glad you mentioned that. I loved, it was that sketchbook, but then there was loose leaf paper, and then there was spine paper, and then there was binders, and there were the doodles and the drawings and the movement on the page. Yeah, you can't, it's one of those books that you just lean in. You just lean closer because you
oh,
feel like
thank
you could
you.
just be in it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, you're the first reader I'm really hearing from because the book really hasn't been out.
Oh, I'm excited. Oh,
Yeah, so no, thanks for the feedback. It's really, I did incorporate ants into the text. One, because I mean, kids tend to love ants and they're such a common thing, and it's nice for them to learn a little bit more about the ants. But in the novel, Oliver really loves ants, and he has an argument with Shay in the book about ants. And I love the illustration of his feet and his legs with with the ants running around. I just think it's just such an interesting perspective. I really no, I'm very indebted to Nancy Carpenter and my our phenomenal editor Nancy Paulson, who paired us together.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
The more
great.
I learn, the more authors I talk to, the more illustrators I talk to. It really is a magic superpower that I think editors have when they pair certain people together. It's just like the alchemy on the page between the words and the pictures just does so much for that picture book reader, young or adult.
Yeah.
And this definitely, has that magical effect to it. Yeah, I can see kids and teachers on the carpet leaning in, talking about all the things, and then perhaps, depending on the grade level, making connections or leading to perhaps a read aloud of Fish in a Tree or some sort of class reading of it. I know in my classes, Lynda, we will now have the picture book and the novel so that we can have both.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
So as you think of your book going out into the world to this new set of readers, what is your hope? What is your hope for the book? What's your hope for readers? I'd love to know what you're thinking as your book birthday is just about here.
Yeah. I guess, I hope that kids will take stock in who they are and the special gifts that they can offer the world, and know that everybody has things that we struggle with, and how important it is to cut yourself a break for those things. I hope that the kids who read the book and the adults who read the books with them will talk to them a little bit about self-talk and how, when it's negative, the effect that it has on us. If you were in the cafeteria and the kid across from you looked up and told you that you were dumb, that wouldn't feel very good. And you would immediately think that person is not kind. Yet most humans don't think anything of speaking that way to themselves. Like, somehow it doesn't matter if you say unkind things to yourself. And I would just really like to highlight the importance of that for kids,
Mhm.
and that your brain is not out of your control. Like, if you say to yourself, I must be really dumb, or I'm not as good as that kid, that you can stop and say, wait a second. So I may not be as good at baseball, but I'm an artist, or I'm a great older brother, or I'm all these other wonderful things. Self-talk is so important, and I do think that we take it for granted sometimes.
Oh, I do. I,
I mean, creative people are very hard on themselves. If
yeah.
I have a dinner with, authors and illustrators, nobody's sitting at the table saying, "Oh, wow, I've got it going on."
Yeah.
You know, c-
Yeah.
Creative people especially tend to be hard on themselves. I think it's part of that ball of wax.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I mentioned, I mean, what a gift to have a child hear that message early on. But as someone who struggles with that very self-talk we are talking about, it's also a gift for the adult who is reading it with the child. So I feel like you just, no matter your age here, this is just such a beautiful reminder that can make you feel better about yourself, however old you are, the second you close that last page.
Oh, Stephanie, thank you. I mean, it truly is high praise from you. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So, where can listeners find you online to find out about any other projects that might come up or to find your backlist books? Is there a good place to find all the things?
I'm on Facebook under just my name. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I've hung on to X just because I have conversations going on with kids in classrooms, and I didn't, I still have it because I'm don't want to just cut those off. Um, I think that's it. I don't know that. Yeah, I think that's.
I want to mention your website because I actually went to your website and I just stared at it for like 2 minutes straight because of the beautiful sparkliness that
Oh, thank you.
happens on your website. It's very enchanting. So I want to make sure that your website, because you have a whole host of information and resources there. And I did just get lost in the way. I got lost in the sparkles.
Well, yeah, I drove my web designer a little nuts with that. A friend of mine calls those little tiny reflections off the surface of the water winkles. So I'm telling him I would like winkles. He's like, "You'd like what?" Like, "Can't you just have like little dots flash?" I don't know if you realize it, but if you go across the boardwalk, all those objects that are on the boardwalk, if you click on those, different things happen. So if you click on one, you'll get a thunderstorm on the page. If you click on another one, like a shark will appear. So you got to go back and play,
I
Stephanie.
will. I will go back and play with that. I love things like unexpected delights like that just make me very happy. So that kudos to you and your web designer for pulling that off.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was fun.
Well, I'll make sure to put a link to the website and your social media handles in the show notes. Of course, along with all of the links to the books, especially Fish in a Tree and Wish in a Tree. And I'm just so grateful to be part of your launch, putting it into the world. Thank you so much for coming
Oh,
today.
oh, Stephanie, thank you. Really, I'm grateful. And this has been fun.
Yes, it has
Yeah.
been fun. It has. And thank you. And listeners, of course, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you loved what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.